Welcome back. On the third anniversary of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting in Parkland, Florida, President Biden, wow, that still sounds weird. President Biden called on Congress to enact what he calls, quote, common sense gun reform. We have seen unbelievable record sales, the highest historic figures in 2020, and they've spiked even higher since Joe Biden announced earlier this week his new recommendations. Joining us now to discuss is North Carolina Congressman Madison Cawthorn. Are you still the youngest congressman?
I am still the youngest congressman, but AOC still has not given me a plaque for it, so it's very confusing.
Disgraceful. Disgraceful. On top of this reform, in his first 100 days, President Biden has pledged to repeal the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. This provides protections for firearms manufacturers and sellers from being held liable every time a criminal misuses a firearm. It's like holding a car manufacturer accountable for a car crash. Your reaction, Madison?
Well, you know what, Sebastian, I'm honestly quite trepidatious about this, because what you see going on with H.R. 127 and the Biden administration calling on us to enact even more gun reform is you see they're trying to limit our ability to be able to defend ourselves. But when you see Nancy Pelosi saying she wants to keep her barbed wire fence and razor wire walls up all the way through the fall and keep National Guard troops stationed around the Capitol, it makes you wonder, why on earth do they want to take our weapons away but keep more weapons around them?
That's a great question, Madison. What is it seems like Biden is on the attack from the NRA to Second Amendment rights. I mean, he has talked about what he wants to do in the first 100 days. He said he wanted to destroy the NRA. What is your biggest concern about these reforms he's trying to put in place?
My biggest concern is that people have a misunderstanding of what the Second Amendment is for. The Second Amendment is not so that we can go clay shooting, hunting, or have home self-defense. The Second Amendment is so we can stop a tyrant if they ever rise up. People who oftentimes say that we would never be able to stop a formal military, well, I want them to go talk to the Viet Cong. They seem to do a pretty damn good job in Vietnam when we were there. And I just really genuinely believe that when Joe Biden is trying to take away our gun rights, he's trying to take away our liberties. You see Facebook and big tech trying to take away our First Amendment rights as well. This is a dystopian society right now. What they're trying to do to us is take away our liberties and our rights, and I just won't let it happen.
And it's remarkable, Madison, that we have Republican cities, Republican states where gun legislation or gun control is lax and we have lower crime. On the other hand, some Democrat-run cities are seeing absolutely gargantuan increases in violent crime. In Baltimore, hold on to your seat. In Baltimore, one activist has suggested paying criminals not to kill in order to try and cut Baltimore's crime rate. So we're paying criminals not to kill, at the same time defunding the police. Is this why citizens seem to be taking safety into their own hands?
I believe it is. The more uncertain our country gets, the more people want to have protection on their own terms. And that what you see going on in Baltimore right now, what that activist is calling for, that's called a racket. Is this the Italian mafia? It's very scary to think about. But when you see Joe Biden push harder and harder and the Democrats continue to overreach, you see more constitutional carry getting passed in more and more states, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah. I mean, you have talked a lot about this outreach to a younger demographic. As the youngest sitting member of Congress, you have a good reach to them. A lot of millennials have grown up during this time when we are defunding the police, when we're seeing more mass shootings around the country. So how do we change the narrative around the gun stigma, that all guns are bad, that your Second Amendments are bad? Because that's what the Democrats are trying to push. That's the narrative they're sending.
Absolutely. And we really have to blame a lot of our legislators, probably 2-3 decades ago, who tried to make hunting hunting what the Second Amendment was about. Really, we've done a poor job of making sure that people understood that the Second Amendment is about having weapons that we will be able to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. So the thing I think we need to do is fight this on a cultural level. We need to remind people that their safety is up to them. We need to remind people that if given the choice between safety or liberty, we'll choose liberty every time.
Can we just put up, we have a graphic from a great YouTuber called The Gun Collective. It's about the gun sales, the background checks in just the last year. We have broken every NICS background check record every single month. That means people are buying more than 3 million guns per month. Why do you think that is? What are they afraid of?
Well, I mean, as we've gone through the coronavirus, as we've gone through this pandemic this last year, we've seen tyrannical levels of government overreach. Here in North Carolina, our governor has been telling us when we can and cannot go to church. And people are starting to get worried. We're hearing things like defund the police, allow criminals to be let out of prison because of the coronavirus, even though it's a very safe area. People are wanting to make sure that they can defend their families. Because you know what? I always go back to dining room politics. It's what matters to the young family when they're sitting around their dining room. And they want to make sure that they can send their kids to safe schools and they can go out and play on a safe street. And if the police are not going to allow them to do that, then they're going to take that safety into their own hands.
All right, Congressman Cawthorn, you are still a freshman congressman. A lot has been going on since you were initially initiated. How are you going to push back against all these attacks on our Second Amendments?
Well, the biggest way we're doing it is that we're introducing some legislation to just really show different ways. You have national constitutional carry. But obviously, being in the minority, there's not significant things that we can do to actually pass laws. And so what I want to do is be really a cultural advocate for the Second Amendment, to remind people that because there's a black gun or doesn't mean it's going to start floating and magically shooting at you. The people that what we all need to start taking more personal responsibility. We need to know that when crimes or gun crimes happen, it's on behalf of people, not because of guns. Now, I agree that having the Second Amendment, it sometimes does lead to there being tragedies. But I am willing to accept those tragedies in order to stay away from any tyranny ever taking hold of this country, which would lead to genocide.
Last quick question. You're new. You are the antithesis of the swamp. You haven't been corrupted yet. Is the GOP going to hold the line on the Second Amendment?
I believe we are. You know what? Our base is fired up about this, and we've got people, some of the members in the GOP who are not very strong on the Second Amendment. They're getting calls left and right from people like the NRA, from the Firearms Protection Policy Group. And I'm also advocating on the Hill on behalf of the Second Amendment. Because let me tell you, if we ever lose the Second Amendment, first will fall, and we just won't have a country anymore.
The Second Amendment is what makes all the others possible. Thank you, Congressman Cawthorn.